Hey, welcome to my podcast, Green Beans Are Better Than Google. My name is Trevor Sharp, and we're going to be having some fun, I think. Probably not, actually. I'm not fun. You probably should leave. Just kidding, don't, please. No. Don't leave, okay? Are you here? You still here? Good. So, Green Beans Are Better Than Google. That's a dumb name, right? Well, it's not. Okay, first off, Google sucks. Green beans are my third favorite food, so if you don't think that's a good name to at least describe me, you're silly. And if you don't think that's a good name in general, you can leave if you think it's a bad name. Get out. I don't want you here. So today, I'm going to be interviewing Tristan about climate change. He authored a story in the THS World newspaper, and he also has it on the thstower.com. That's a longer version. He's pretty avid about climate change, and I wanted to hear what he had to think about it. I want to preface this with these are his opinions, not mine. I disagree with a lot of his stuff, but I just wanted to get what he thought. I wasn't trying to argue or anything, so let's get his opinion, right? That's fun. Okay, so I'm here with Tristan McCulloch.
Hi.
Howdy. So he's here to talk about something he finds pretty important, right?
Yeah.
And what is that? What is that?
That would be climate change.
So what's the big deal about climate change? Isn't that fake news?
Not fake news.
Not fake
actually.
news?
Pretty agreed upon scientifically. I mean, unless you're looking at like the three dudes that like get a bunch of money from oil and they just say it because they get more money.
So they're not all paid off?
All scientists? Or
Yeah, every single scientist?
No, they're actually. I mean, they're paid. Hopefully.
That's called corruption. It's called corruption, right? Paying your scientists.
Yeah. Actually, paying workers a wage is corruption.
Mm-hmm. And if they do anything, it's all fake, right?
That's true. Yes,
Yeah.
That's actually true.
Okay, but in all seriousness, what's the issue here?
So the issue is that this is like 100% human cause. This is agreed upon scientifically. This is general consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been going on for a while, and we've known about it for a while, and we haven't really done anything. And so it's leading now to the point where we might not be able to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So the UN gave us basically 11 years now to cut our emissions in half.
And they gave us this when?
This was last year in October, I think.
Okay.
And basically, and in 2050, we're supposed to get to net zero, which means that we either emit zero or emit some carbon and take out as much, at least as much as we put in. And if we don't do that, if we don't follow this guideline, then there could be, and there likely will be, sort of compounding effects of climate change that reinforce themselves. So it might get to the point, if we don't meet these goals, that we can't stop it.
Okay, so I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. So I know a lot of people who believe that this is from cows farting. This is from volcanoes. And this is a natural cycle that the Earth goes through.
Okay.
What would your response be to those people?
So, yeah, cows emit methane. Methane's a greenhouse gas. Volcanoes cause emissions. Those are true things. Mm-hmm. The problem is that there is a natural amount of carbon that the Earth can sort of absorb, mm-hmm. and that's more. The Earth can absorb more with forests that we've been destroying.
Yeah.
So as we get rid of forests, that becomes a problem. Without that, and with massive production of beef and stuff, mm-hmm. that becomes a problem. But again, that's human caused. So just normal cows out in the wild, that is a natural process that is naturally negated by the planet. So
if we weren't I don't want to say mass producing, but mass herding cows into tight spaces, so that's you're considering that a human cause.
Yeah,
I got you. And so I know this is a tough question. I don't expect the answer, but what do you think the answer to, or the solution to climate change is with our 11 years that we have to stop our emissions?
The main issue, it seems, is that we know what to do. We know we need to switch our energy to other preferably renewable. Mm-hmm. Nuclear, I mean, it's sort of dangerous, but it's not a renewable source. It's a limited resource.
Yeah.
And renewable would obviously be better in the long run.
Yeah.
So that we can keep getting stuff. But the problem is that there is so much lobbying power against that.
Yep.
And it's sort of undermining democracy in terms of, like, people want companies to act this way and people want the government to act this way, and they're not doing it.
Yes.
So the core of the issue is unaccountability. And so we need to sort of get the people in power who have the power to actually change these things
Yep.
to start to do something and switch their energy over or switch the laws.
So are you talking about like the CEOs and the people who run like the coal companies and the gas companies, like the things like that? Like those people are the ones who.
So if there were more democracy and we had more of a say over what they did, then that would be a solution.
Is there currently an understanded, like, so there's like the different alternatives to coal and the ones that emit greenhouse gases, right? So is there an understanded solution when it comes to what we're going to replace these with? So if we had a full democracy here of, say, let's stick with if we were in our current form of government, correct, without the lobbying, so we had to vote on like a national goal, so like the Green New Deal type of thing. Is there a understanded path towards replacing these, what we're replacing them with, things like that?
So there are a bunch of like specific plans that lay out how much solar we need and how much wind energy we need if you want to go totally renewable. There are also plans with nuclear. And there are a bunch of specific plans, but I think at the bare minimum we need a committee or something. The Green New Deal proposed a committee to sort of figure this stuff out and to reach the goals. So we have the goals, and there are a bunch of ways to meet them. And so we just kind of have to pick one, really. That's really all it is.
So with with a committee that chooses that, are you not at all concerned with giving too much authority to the government? I mean, I know that sounds all conspiracy-ish, but I mean, you are putting a lot of power in the hands of a few people with a committee with the entire energy sector.
Yeah, you could have, local committees as well that would be more accountable directly to smaller communities, which would be good, more decentralized committee system.
So I know a lot of people, as myself, libertarians. I know a lot of Democrats. I know and a lot of Republicans get skeptical when you're putting that much of the private sector into the hands of a government. So, people who have the force, the military, the things like that. And so what would be a way to avoid, in 1984, centralizing all your power into one dude's hand while still keeping a democracy instead of a free market, which you're against?
Yes. So the way to do the probably the best way, again, the problem is unaccountability. And so if the economic sphere were more democratic, so if workers in industries had control over those industries, right? Instead of it just being like a couple CEOs or like 20 stockholders or whatever.
Or just an owner.
Yeah. Then there wouldn't be the need for a big an expansion of a centralized government power, because there would already be these decisions. Like, people would obviously recognize, like, we need to not die in 20 years. So expanding democracy to other spheres of our of things that affect us would avoid sort of a centralized government and solve the issue as well.
So Tristan is going to have a editorial within the World newspaper coming out in the next couple of weeks. And he's also going to have a longer version on the website. And I'm going to ask you a specific question about the one going into print. And so you said that one of the big issues with capitalism currently in this situation is that even if an owner or even if like the people who run the company understand that there is an issue, they can't feel as if they can make that change because someone's going to take their spot and become more efficient, more profitable, more, they're going to grow more, and so they're going to run them. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So basically, capitalism basically requires that competing entities, outdo each other and become more efficient. And in that goal of becoming more efficient and getting the most profit, the end goal as an end is more profit. So you can do that by controlling more of the market or producing more and selling to more people. And so it's sort of like Machiavellian in the sense that if you don't ignore bad things that are caused by what you're doing, then other people will do that, and they will end up controlling more of the market because they have more money, because they will get more money. And so you're kind of forced to either ignore their negative externalities, right? Bad things that happen because of what you're doing, because someone else is going to do it. And if they do it, they'll control more of the market, which you can't have as a business owner.
Yeah. So just one little, I'm not going to say objection, but question within that is, and I think an objection that people will have, and that I also have, is if there is and I want to hear your answer to this. So if there is a demand from the market, so people get educated enough to realize this is an issue, right? And there's like mass protests, like everyone's informed, people want this, like, because this is a scary thing, right? Like the flooding, the oceans, all that junk, the hurricanes, tornadoes, like there's a lot of, junk that could happen because of climate change getting out of control. And so if there became a huge natural market demand for greener energies, what's stopping that from within the market naturally occurring, and coal and oil and all the bad ones naturally going down because there's not a demand for that any longer? Even if it's more efficient and cheaper, if there's people understand the consequences of that, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. So there's right now there are a few issues with that, which is that it is coal and oil is already like a much more developed industry than renewable energy. So they currently have a lot more power over things like educating people. Okay, so so you'll see more, like they have funded like this, like climate denial, basically, which is, it literally comes from oil and coal companies.
And I'm going to cut you right there. Like, so can you explain that? So is that them funding like media campaigns, online campaigns, or I'm just curious because I don't know about it. Like, how does that work?
So they do fund media campaigns. Exxon has funded media campaigns, and they have been tried for it in, I believe it was the UK. And they also fund politicians to say these things, and then it becomes like a sort of like a referral to authority. Like people will be like, oh, this politician says climate change isn't real, and they're obviously smarter than me because they're in politics.
Like Grant Paul.
Sure. And then
you denies climate change.
So then it becomes sort of like, well, all these smart people around me think this isn't real, so there's obviously a legitimate question about whether this is real or not.
And they avoid, the science behind it. And they're like, well, these people say it's possibly not true, so it's possibly not true. Yeah,
and that's another problem is it'll often be conveyed, even in, like, CNN, as a two-sided issue, right? So they will platform climate denial in order to sort of say that we're going to knock it down right now. But what that does is it says this is a legitimate, arguable opinion that we can argue against, but it's really just a totally irrational opinion, and there's no way to argue against it because it's purely just funded.
There's no way to argue against the deniers, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because even if you say the facts, they're going to claim, like I joked at the beginning, that all scientists are paid off, right?
Yes. I'm going to plug a little protest, April 26th at 11 a.m. We're going to try to have a little education session before we actually do the march. So if you're interested, you can come to that.
And how can they contact you?
They can contact me at tmcculloch632@tps501.
I'll have his link in the description, or whatever I can do. I don't know how that works yet. So I feel like at this point in podcasts, I'm always like, or people are always like, okay, now buy his book, but he doesn't have a book. But doesn't it feel like that? It kind of feels like that to me. So thshour.com, when you see the newspapers getting passed around, you'll know that is up. Also read his story in there, which is kind of a good preview. And then for more information on his march he's going to go on, if you think this is an issue that you want to buy into and you want to help try to find a solution, contact him at his email. I'll have it somewhere on this in some way. It's also in the newspapers. You'll see passed out. his email's on there. It'll be on thstower.com. I'm sure on his article he's going to be posting.
Yeah.
So there's ways you can get in contact with him, and so I think that wraps this up. I think he might be on a future podcast if there's any interest. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see what happens.